Hey guys, how's it going? I'm recording with the fan on, so it might be able to hear that. Hopefully it's not too bad. But just want to share some more of my recent job experience and stuff and what's going on with me. And so I want to talk about my time at L&N and try to remember and point out things as much as I can. I was only there for like a day and a half. And so I quit Timewell, which was a drainage pipe company, and there was good things about it and bad things about it, but it ended up just getting to me too much, and for different reasons, I decided to leave there. And a big reason was third shift, just waking up at 11 and working 5 days a week, and they wanted to do a lot of overtime. They wanted me to work 6 days a week. While I was in the process of moving stuff every day from my old apartment to my new one, and having to deal with my vehicle getting fixed and borrowing my aunt's vehicle after I hit the deer on the way to work and everything. Just too much for me to handle. But a big thing was the shift time. So when I quit, I was thinking, there's ways that I could probably stretch out, and pay bills for a month or something and get by. And there was like the promise of the stimulus check thing coming, so that was in the back of my mind. It was pretty guaranteed that with a lot of people without jobs now that the government was going to help out and send some money. But I thought, it was best for me to take a break and try to find something better. And I really wanted some time off for a while, if I could get by for a month or so. But at the same time, it's like I can't just relax and not look for opportunities or apply, because you never know when something's going to be available or not, So I applied some places and some local stores and stuff, and I was hoping, maybe I'll hear back from them in a week, or if I don't, I'll contact them in a week, and maybe it'll be like a little slow process and I can kind of decide what I want, what's going to be best for me. But anyway, somebody shared like a job page on Facebook, and I saw something pop up that said that it was in the town that I live in, and it was like a first shift factory job and like paid weekly or whatever. And I was like, man, that sounds perfect. Like, and this was only like a day or two after I quit the job at Timewell, so I was like, wow. And I applied, or, I asked on Facebook, is this available? And they're like, yeah, when can you come in? And I told them anytime, and they basically wanted me to come in that day, I think, or maybe it was the next day, but it was really soon. So I was like, alright, well, I'm going to be jumping headfirst into something new. And so it was a temp agency in another town that they hire through. And on Facebook too, before I went, I asked if they would tell me like what the place was that I was applying at or whatever, like more details, because all it said was like metal fabricator first shift or whatever, and they never really responded to me, so I didn't really like that to begin with. How they're like kind of secretive about things. But I went in and I filled out forms on the computer about my history, my job history and everything, and what skills I have or whatever experience I have and stuff like that, my education and all that. And they were supposed to, then she told me about the job, more details, and she told me it was $11 an hour, which kind of stunk, because that's basically, a little more than minimum wage right now. Minimum wage, I don't know exactly what it is. It might be like $9.25 or something. But in July it's going to go up to 10, and then in January of next year it's going to go up to 11. So 11 will actually be the minimum wage in 2021 in Illinois, because there's a 5-year plan to raise the minimum wage to $15 in Illinois, and So every year now it's going to raise the dollar until it gets to 15 in 2025. And when I was working at Casey's, my gas station job, they were paying, I think, like $9.75 or something, a little bit more than the current minimum wage. And I made an extra 50 cents because I did the third shift overnight. So like everything after midnight was an extra 50 cents. So I was making over $10 there, might as well be close. It was close to 11, anyway, or 10.50 or something. It was close to that. So it wasn't a whole lot of money, but I thought maybe the work is pretty simple or whatever. So they told me the shift was going to be like 9 to 5, she said, or 10 to 6 or whatever. She ended up telling me it was going to be 10 to 6. And I thought that sounded perfect, I could sleep in and still have my nights free. And she said, like, you can't do overtime. So I was like, that's awesome, because the other job was like giving me mandatory overtime and I needed kind of a break. And this new job was, you couldn't do overtime. So I was going to have Saturdays and Sundays off. And I thought, yeah, this sounds perfect. Like almost too good to be true, and it kind of was. So, but the wage didn't sound great. But I was like, okay, I already drove to, the other town to show up for this. I already did the work on the computer. I don't have any prospects right now at that time. And I was like, I'm gonna need a job. So I'm like, okay, I'm already in this, so I might as well give it a shot, But I wasn't happy about the wages because the time well job was paying me $13 an hour. So that was, it was a drop, and I was going to be making basically almost as much as I was at Casey's, except for this is like, guaranteed 5 days a week or whatever. But still, there's just so much that I could say about it. So this lady who was there, who did the interviewing and everything, I didn't really appreciate her too much. It felt like a probation meeting or like a parole meeting or something, like I was a criminal. I don't feel like she treated me really kind of like respect. I don't know if she hated her job, she's having a bad day or what. I mean, I'm sure that she deals with a lot of people that give her a rough time. And she sees a lot of people come and go, just like I went there and left. But I wasn't really happy with some of the ways that she treated me, or she acted. And I'm not sure that I can really describe why. There's just little things. I don't know. She asked about some of my criminal past, and, there's crimes that, like my first DUI I got when I was 17, and she said like stuff before 17 didn't matter. I try to put all that stuff out of my head, really. I don't think about all the dates and the times that I got in trouble. But I was trying to remember to honestly tell her stuff from my past, and I remember, around the time I got the DUI, it was before that, I guess, that I got possession of marijuana, but I was, just nervous or anxious or whatever, and my head's just all jumbled up. And I'm trying to think, I don't know if that was before 17 or not, or so. She's like, you can't remember? And then she's like, I was like, well, it was kind of a long time ago. And she's like, well, it wasn't that long. And I'm like, well, I'm 33. It wasn't yesterday. It seems like a while to me. But she just seemed to kind of have an attitude with everything. And I'm like, it didn't make it an enjoyable experience. It didn't feel like a professional experience. I don't know what else I could say about that whole thing, but she said that, okay, so she asked when's the soonest that I could start, and I went there on a Wednesday or something, and I told her about my stress with Timewell, and moving into my apartment and stuff. And I was like, I need a little bit more time. I'm waiting. Hopefully my vehicle was supposed to get fixed by that week sometime, because he was waiting on a cable to arrive for the gear shifter that he ordered from somebody. They were supposed to send it to him. As soon as he got it, he was going to put it in the vehicle and it was going to be done. But so I was waiting on that. I was still moving in my apartment. So she's like, when's the soonest you can start? And I was like, well, how can I? I'm like, I don't really want to start until like next Monday. Let's, give me off Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday, and I'll start next week. And I'm like, that makes sense to me. That gives me more time to sort the stuff out that's been bothering me. I should have my vehicle back. I should have everything moved into my apartment by then, and I could have a fresh start with this job. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to, call this job and talk to the boss or whatever and ask if that's okay with them. And then if they say yeah, then we'll have like orientation. And she wanted me to do orientation that night. She was trying to get a hold of the boss. She's like, well, it might be 30 minutes to an hour or something until they get back to me. So, you can just drive around town or whatever, go somewhere and come back. Like, I'll call you. And so I drove to the other town where my mom lives, and I talked to my mom for a while. And I waited there. Like, an hour went by, and she's like, I still haven't heard from him. And so this temp agency closed at like 5 p.m. Like, I went there originally at like 2 to do all the paperwork and stuff, so it was like after 3 or something when I left. So I waited at my mom's. It was like 4 o'clock, nothing. So she's like, well, if we don't hear anything by 4:30 or 5 or whatever, then we'll do it tomorrow. So I waited and didn't hear anything. So it's like, okay, great, I'm gonna have to drive back to that town to do more tomorrow, whatever. So I just hung out with my mom a couple hours and then went back home. And so the next day I went in, did the orientation where she just ran down basically a sheet of paper that says all this stuff, like no sexual harassment, follow the rules, be safe, be on time, basic stuff like that. But it was, a long list. And she read through it really fast, kind of irritated, like she's read through it like a million times and she hates doing it. But it's like, okay, whatever. I can understand that, this is stuff that you gotta do. But the boss told her, yeah, it's cool that I could start Monday. So I was like, great, that's really great. That gives me time to really take care of this stuff. So I didn't really enjoy that whole experience, but she was like, show up at work on Monday. And she gave me some t-shirts from the temp agency and like a cup and some other stuff, whatever. I was going to get my money on like a pay card. She gave that to me. And she was telling me that insurance, like after my first paycheck, like insurance would automatically start being taken out of it. So she gave me this insurance card to call them if I wanted to shut it off, which I didn't really like that either. But I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know what else to really say much about that. What ended up happening was my mechanic never got the cable, so the vehicle situation wasn't solved that week, which really ticked me off. By Friday I found out, nope, he still doesn't have it, so we gotta wait till next week. And so that kind of sucked, but I did get, pretty much everything moved into my apartment. I tried to straighten out as much stuff as I could. And so I go in there on Monday. Okay, here's another thing I forgot about the orientation. She was trying to tell me, like, where the place is that I'm going to be working at. And, okay, another thing. Okay, so it's L&N, and it's a metal fabrication place. She told me, like, they fix up dumpsters or something. They actually, like, make dumpsters. She told me I'd be operating a machine, so everything that I had in my mind about this job was, like, completely wrong. There's another thing, is that when I was working at Casey's, there was a customer who worked there, and he came in every morning, and I would always talk to him about music and stuff, and he would complain about work, and I asked him where he worked, and he told me he worked there, and And he told me, like, don't ever think about going there. He told me, like, it's a terrible job. They don't pay you anything at all. And I don't know why he's been there for so long. Maybe his job's easier because he works in, like, the machine shed or whatever. I don't know why he's there if he's complaining about it and saying it's so bad. But I do agree with him. So actually, that was the first thing I ever knew about that job was this customer that worked at Casey's that he told me. He seriously went on, like, a rant for a while. He's like, do not go there. I was like, okay, whatever. You know, I was working at Casey's. But there were two other guys that worked at Casey's that did go there. So I was like, okay, I kind of know some people that work there, this customer. And I thought, you know, there's two other people. I actually added one of these guys that I used to work with on Facebook, and I was like, hey, don't you work at this place? And he told me, yeah. And he told me he likes it. He's been there for a little while now, a couple months or whatever. And you know, I was asking him questions. He was trying to explain to me stuff. Well, also at the orientation, this lady told me, you know, she tried to tell me where the place was, how to get there. It was outside of town a little bit. And she tried to describe to me, like, how to get to the parking lot. Like, sounded really confusing. She's like, you know, you got to go around the building and stuff to get to the parking lot, and you won't see it and stuff. I'm like, okay. I'm kind of like, all right, whatever, you know, I'll figure it out when I get there. I'll find the parking lot. And when I talked to this friend, this guy that I worked with at Casey's, who works there, he tried to describe to me the parking lot too. He's like, you know where the parking lot is? I'm like, yeah. She told me, and he tried to tell me too. Well, when I actually went there on Monday, I didn't see where the parking lot was. I was like, where is the parking lot? And I drove up to the building where some guys were standing outside, and I asked them. They told me, like, go around the building, and it's around back or whatever. I was like, okay. So I pulled out, and I kind of drove past the building to see if I could see it. And I couldn't, so I pulled back in and talked to another guy, and he's like, yeah, just drive around here, around the back, and it's back there. So finally I figured it out. It's like the parking lot's like hidden, like behind the buildings, which I didn't like at all. And I don't know why it's designed like that. I don't know why they don't fix it. Like, a parking lot should be simple. Like, if my first experience of the job is like, well, my first experience is that customer who told me don't ever under any circumstances work there. And then, you know, like my first experience of actually showing up there is, you know, you can't even find the parking lot. It's like, that's a problem. Like, okay. I finally got it, parked. I went inside. I was early. I like to show up early and stuff. You know, I was like 10, 15 minutes early. And the first thing I noticed is that it's very, very dirty in there. It's nothing like what I expected, like, and you can, like, smell and, like, taste the oil in the air. Like, you're breathing in stuff, like, as soon as you walk in there. But I went to a little office room, and, well, first this guy showed me how to clock in. They actually have, like, an old-style clock-in, like, stamp machine. So you actually have the cards where you have to, like, slide it in, and it puts the timestamp on there. Haven't seen anything like that for a long time. It's a little bit outdated, but I guess it works. Which, I don't know if I've ever said about Timewell. There's a lot more I'd like to talk about that job. But I worked through a different temp agency for that job, and their time schedule thing was all messed up too. Because there was, like, a website I had to log on to, and at the end of every week I had to put in my hours. And then they would ask Timewell, like, if I was there for my hours to confirm it, and then they would confirm it. And then, you know, they would be like, okay, your hours are approved. And then I wait to get my paycheck. That was kind of convoluted. I mean, I don't know. You'd think that it's 2020 and a lot of jobs could have some updated kind of system to where, you know, you can swipe something or go to a computer and type something in and it keeps track of all that. But I'd almost forget at Timewell, like at the end of the week they'd send me emails and remind me, like, don't forget to put your time in, like... It's just different from a lot of other jobs that I've had. But, so after I clocked in, I went into the office with one of the bosses there, and she gave me gloves and earplugs and eye safety glasses and everything. And basically, I I worked with this guy named John, and we just started working, doing stuff, and I feel like I've been talking forever. This might have to be multiple videos. It's already 20 minutes. Talk about the actual work experience, but it was all working with metal. And so there was like these strips of metal, like these long strips. I don't know how long they were. Maybe like 6 feet or something. And they were like over 6 inches wide, but they wanted to strip them down to 6 inches each. And so we took these big metal strips and we put them on this thing called the shear, or whatever shears. And you'd slide this metal piece underneath there, and we'd both line up our ends. And every machine that was there was activated by like foot pedals. And so he pushed the foot pedal, and like a big blade would come down basically and slice the metal. And so we had it marked to 6 inches wide on each side, and it would slice it so the strips would be 6 inches. And so we did a bunch of those. And so there's a lot of cutting metal and forming metal into these shapes and stuff so that they can be welded together to make dumpsters, basically. We moved on to... They had like these templates for these ends on the dumpsters, and so there were these big like sides of the dumpster, like the left and right sides, and they had templates of different sizes because they made like different sides of dumpsters and stuff. And so there were these pre-cut ends, and they had like huge sheets of metal, and we take these pre-cut ends and put them on the sheet and mark them. So we would cut out like more like duplicates of these, and we had a machine that was kind of like the shear machine. I don't know if it was really the exact same thing, or it's just kind of different, or it was built different. It was harder for me to judge where to cut it on there, and it's hard to explain all this, but it was cutting metal, and me and another guy tried to cooperate and work together to line up the metal to where it had to be cut. And that I didn't like doing because maneuvering those big pieces of metal was a pain in the butt, and lining them up and getting them cut right was a pain in the butt, and it was exhausting work. And, we did quite a bit of those. So there's a lot of other stuff that we did, but I think that for now I'm going to end this. But yeah, so this will be part 1. God bless.